Here we are, Location Luxe. I'm your host, Alan Canas, and here in Season 1, we'll be focused on what we're calling the Great Lifestyle Migration. On each episode, I'll be right here in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Over the last few decades, we've witnessed a great migration for employment and technology development. As such, the need and demand for homes has been among the highest in the country. These migration choices are giving people an extraordinary opportunity to explore new locations, amenities, and lifestyle options. And that's why we're here. Location Luxe. This week, in this very special pilot episode, I am so pleased to welcome Julie Faupel, direct from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's such a pleasure to be here, Alan. I'm delighted to help you get to know this beautiful destination a little better.
I am so glad that you joined us today. You know what, Julie is going to take us through how Jackson Hole really is more of a destination location. It's a beautiful lifestyle. But before that, Julie, you have to tell the people a little about you and where are you? Because it's gorgeous.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am standing in front of 2,000 acres of conserved ranch land right now. You can see my neighbors, the cows, are right behind me over here. It's an amazing place that I've lived for 18 years, and I think it's the perfect spot to really kick off this amazing series called The Great Lifestyle Migration. You know, when you think about all of the different migrations that are happening right now in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, whether it's elk or moose or bison, you know, the fact that they're moving around to find a different habitat. And it's the same thing that's kind of happening in our real estate landscape. So my husband and I migrated here 18 years ago and started our company 12 years ago. And we've just never looked back. We love this place. And certainly it's not hard to sell real estate here amongst such beauty. You know, I mean, it is still kind of the last of the Old West and this incredible cowboy culture and community.
We're all hearing about Jackson Hole, but tell us, why are we seeing so many people migrate to Jackson Hole?
I think that there's so much that's driving kind of the demand that we're seeing right now. You know, it's a very special place, and you kind of move here because of the outdoors and all of the incredible lifestyle pursuits, whether you're a skier or a hiker or a mountain biker or a fly fisherman. But then you stay because of the incredible community and connection that you share with the individuals that are also residents here. So it is really kind of a balance between the two. And you know, we're seeing more and more people kind of relocating because of, whether it's tax benefit or whether it's because of technology. You know, certainly the fact that people can now telecommute or really zoom in from anywhere. And as we've all really learned this year, you know, it's far less important for us to live where the headquarters are and probably more important for us to live where we love. And so we're seeing more people come in for those reasons. And not to mention, you know, our tax benefits, the fact that we've got no state income tax, no estate tax. We have a 1,000-year dynasty trust, very, very low property taxes. So it's a remarkable place, and certainly it's attracting a lot of attention right now.
One of my favorite stories, and I would love it if you could share this on this segment, share your ice cream story.
I love it. Well, so, you know, it's funny because my husband and I both grew up in the Midwest. We're small town people. And so when we moved to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, we didn't really know what to expect. You know, it's a destination. It's got a lot of people from a lot of different, you know, places in the United States, places in the world. And you know, one of the things that was probably my favorite part about Jackson is that we have a very low crime rate. And so of all of the places that I've lived and all of the real estate that I've sold here, it's actually quite unique if somebody has a house key. And so, for example, I couldn't tell you where keys to my home are. And so we had neighbors that were actually, you know, I mean, obviously we lived in a neighborhood and we were at the end of a cul-de-sac, and we had neighbors that while we were out of town for the weekend, they left us a note that said, "Welcome home, Faupels." the next time you leave, please make sure there's more ice cream in the freezer so that you won't know when we've taken some. And so that's the kind of place that this is. It's very neighborly and it's very, very friendly. And we kind of pride ourselves on that. You know, it is a place where I think because so many people have migrated here from other parts of the world, your friends truly become your family, and it is a tribe, and there is a sense of community that we hold very, very close to our hearts, and that we don't ever want to lose.
And Julie, where do you think people are really migrating from?
Well, I think, we're seeing a huge demand from, from Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, Seattle, Chicago, New York. We have fabulous air service here. And so it's always been, as our air service has grown, we've seen a lot of demand kind of coming from those direct flights. One of the things that we've done as a business community is that we supplement seats on those airlines so that when they're coming in, if they're not full at first, the businesses guarantee those seats so that then it can kind of have a ramp up effect as the demand increases from that urban environment to this destination. So you've got a lot of support from the business community here to really make this a destination that is sustainable kind of long term.
And Julie, can you tell us also a little bit about the architectural styles and about the land and the buildings?
Of course. So one of the things that makes Jackson, the property value so high in Jackson Hole is the fact that only 3% of our land is actually developable. So, I mean, as I mentioned, kind of when we started off this interview, Alan, the land behind me is held in conservation in perpetuity. And so it can never be developed. Those views will never change. And that's kind of the case, in most of the valley. People wanting a little bit more elbow room and people wanting to kind of have their place of the Mountain West, it embodies kind of that desire here in Jackson. Architecturally, we're seeing more people wanting something a little bit more contemporary, but still with some mountain modern aspects. So whether they're using barnwood or moss rock or different things like that, but incorporating it into a much more contemporary design, that's really what where the demand exists today. Now, that being said, we've also got, obviously, log homes were really all of the rage in the 80s and 90s. And so we have a lot of those. And so rehabbing those and bringing elements in that are more kind of not necessarily contemporary, but more soft and warm to kind of warm up those log homes. So whether you've got a beautiful cashmere sofa or Laura Piana drapes, I mean, things like that just really make people feel like they're like the house is giving you a hug. When it's this cold outside, do you want the house to give you a hug?
A big hug. Is there anything that you would want to tell somebody that's relocating or thinking about relocating to Jackson Hole?
So I have sold over $2 billion worth of real estate here in this valley, and I've never had somebody say, I never should have bought that house in Jackson Hole. It's not a mistake. And the people that, find their way here, it's a really special group. And it ends up being, so much a legacy of a family or, this kind of moment for somebody. It's the culmination of things. And it's one of the things that I love about real estate out here is that, when you get to acquire a property in Jackson, Wyoming, it is meaningful. It's a spike in time for that family or for that, for a lifetime of hard work or, all sorts of different things. So it's, I would just say that they wouldn't regret it.
What a thrill, Julie. Thanks for joining us on the premiere episode of Season 1 of Location Luxe, the great lifestyle migration.
Thank you, Alan. It is such a pleasure. You are such a professional, and I'm just delighted to have joined you.
We're looking forward to seeing all of you again right here on DesignTV by SANDOW. Julie, thank you again.
Thank you. Take care. Be well.
And you stay warm.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to DesignTV by SANDOW. I'm Avinash Rajagopal, Editor-in-Chief at Metropolis, and we're here today to talk about material transparency. If, like me, you've been working from home for the last 8 months, I'm sure you've developed a new love for ergonomic chairs. So take a minute with me and think of all the parts that make up the chair that you're sitting on today, or perhaps sit on every day, from the casters to the seat, to the back, to the arms. There's probably 100 different components and assemblies in that one chair. So as you sit on that chair during a health crisis and during a climate crisis, ask yourself, where do all those parts come from? Are they healthy for you? Are they healthy for the people who made them? And what happens when you're done with the chair? Will pieces of your mesh seat be floating in an ocean somewhere someday? My guest today is perhaps the best guide there is on those questions. So let's talk material transparency today with Bob King, the CEO and founder of the workplace solutions company, Humanscale. Bob, it's such a pleasure to have you with me today.
Thanks, Avi. Thanks a lot for having me on, and it's great seeing you.
Absolutely. Bob, so Humanscale is a leader in ergonomic solutions. You're known for that, but you're also deeply committed to sustainability. Do you see a connection between those two core values?
Well, obviously, our products help people thrive and be healthy in the office, and sustain our sustainable commitments to sustainability, help people thrive on a broader scale, right, globally, and help the planet thrive. So I think there is a connection. But at the heart of it, it's about having values and sticking to those values. On the design side, we're committed to function and purpose and simplicity and longevity. And on sustainability side, we're committed to having a positive impact on the planet.
Right. And I think that idea of having a positive impact is so vital, because I mean, it's so hard to do that. I mean, the more we understand about products, the more we understand, that they're based on a system of extraction, at least until today, and that it's hard to ignore some of the negative impacts that product manufacturing can have on the planet. And also, over the years, different chemicals and different processes have crept into product manufacturing in a whole host of categories that maybe the effects of those chemicals were not properly understood at the time, but certainly today we know that there is some concern around having those chemicals around you at work or at home. So you've made giant headway on that at Humanscale, and when you talk about positive impact on the planet, it's also a positive impact on the people who interact with your product, whether it's manufacturing them or using them. 80%, am I right? 84%, I correct myself, 84% of all Humanscale products have some kind of transparency label or certification. So why is that transparency piece important to you?
For a number of reasons, but imagine, you said before, people are sitting in chairs, and think about what they're made out of. We could make an amazing chair that allowed people to be incredibly comfortable and incredibly healthy, which actually we do, right? The average chair, by the way, would have over 200 parts. The average chair probably has about 240 parts rather than 100. Although our chairs have far fewer. But can you imagine you have this wonderful chair? It's really healthy from an ergonomic point of view, better, good for your back and so on. But it off gases a carcinogen that you breathe every day. Obviously, that would be a conflict, right? And you would be hurting the people that you're trying to help. So that's why it's important to use healthy materials. That's one of the reasons it's healthy. One of the other reasons is that it's not just about protecting the people who are your customers and using your products. It's about protecting the people and the environment upstream and downstream of those folks. That's where your impact is even greater.
Right. When you're saying upstream and downstream, of course, you mean the people who are, maybe making the components that go into a chair, or the people who might be handling the chair, at the end of its life, right? So on either side of the people of you and me who are maybe using the chair, there's there's all this impact that we can have on people, as you said, up and down.
Right, exactly. So if you take something like in a chair, you might use chrome. Almost every company that makes chairs, except for Humanscale, will use chrome 6, which is a terrible environmental toxin. It's a terrible carcinogen. In the manufacturing process, generally those products that use chrome 6 are made in a third world country where there's little regulation, in factories where people have very little protection, and they're exposed to chrome 6, which is terrible material. Not only the people in the factories, but we've seen photographs of factories with streams running out of them that are full of chromium. The movie Aaron Brockovich was about chromium causing cancer in a community. What's happening in some third world countries it goes way beyond that. It's terrible. So if you use chrome 6, it's convenient to use that here in the United States, for example, because it's inexpensive and it doesn't off-gas, it doesn't impact us, but has a terrible impact upstream on the supply chain side. Really tragic implications upstream. So we use no chrome 6. All our chrome is chrome 3, which is non-toxic, which is kind of interesting because we've gone to our suppliers and said, look, we're not, as of this date, we will no longer use chrome 6. We said back several years ago. And in order to keep us as a customer, they had to invest in equipment that would coat chrome 3. And they did. Some of them did, some didn't, and we went to someone else. But by doing that, it made chrome 3 available. And by making it available, now we're seeing other people, other competitors using it on their products, on their chairs or whatever. So it's really cool to see that by pushing the supply chain, you can have a greater impact than just on your own company.
That's just incredible. There's this kind of like multiplying exponential sort of impact that you can have, really moving the market through the choices that you make. That's really fascinating. I do happen to know there's another detail, and I was really surprised by this. I understand, chrome 6 in leather tanning, where, Humanscale might be one of the larger customers for, that particular supplier. And so you have some leverage there. But removing PVC from electric wires for some of your lighting collections, I mean, going up against sort of the way that the entire electricity industry is structured, it seems like almost. And you've done that. You've taken out PVC from some of the wiring of your lighting products. What makes you go after those, seemingly really tiny details, but that are probably hugely challenging to move the needle on?
Yeah, well, lighting is another one. Using PVC vinyl for electric cords is something that's done universally. Every electric cord is made of vinyl, right? Because it's less expensive than the alternatives. Vinyl is a terrible material. Not when it's used, it doesn't off-gas at all. But downstream in the disposal part, actually, it can be terrible. So inside the wire is copper. Copper is very valuable. How do you get the copper out of the wire? It's really out of the vinyl. It's very tough. The way they do it, sadly, is you burn it, and it's typically burned in third world countries, either in Africa or China. Typically, a lot is burned in Africa, and we've seen pictures of wire being burned, the vinyl being burned off it, smoke billowing off, which is a horrible carcinogen in communities, right in the middle of a community. So to us, it was really important that we put a line in the sand and said, we're not going to do it. So all of our new lighting and new electronic products are using polyurethane coating for the wire, which was a challenge to get them to do it. You're right, it was very, very difficult. But by doing it, we can tell the story of how we did it and why it's important to our customers. And then our customers start asking their other suppliers, oh, are you using vinyl in your wiring? And then they get the message. And then before you know it, they're putting out information saying that they're using polyurethane as well. And we've had a really dramatic impact on the world. So it's kind of cool that by doing one small thing, I say small, it's not that small, but by converting all our wires to polyurethane, which is environmentally neutral, it has forced other folks to do the same. And then by going to manufacturers and saying, look, we need this, or we're not going to buy from anymore, it makes that product available to other folks. So it has a big impact all around. An exponential impact on the world.
You know, very often when we hear of chemicals of concern like Chrome 6 or PVC or others being used in products, you know, the justification is usually some kind of economic logic, right? It's like, it's the cheapest way of doing it. It's the most efficient way of doing it. Customers might simply not be willing to pay a markup for, you know, other alternatives. You know, I'm sure you've come up against that logic over and over again. What have you done to work through that, work past that? I mean, I'm sure our listeners, you know, many of whom are interior designers and architects, often face that same battle when they're talking about sustainability at their level. You know, they may not be thinking about product assemblies, but in a way, a building itself is kind of an assembly, and they're thinking of, you know, the parts of that building, you know, of which a task chair might be one, and they're often facing the same challenge. So, how have you been able to work through that?
The best way to work through it, and it's been very, very effective, is with ingredients labels, HPD and Declare. Those are two very effective organizations. They're third-party verified. There's auditing going on, so you can trust those labels. And if you have an ingredients label by HPD or Declare, you know exactly what's in the product. If there's red listed material in there, it's red listed, and it's quite easy to see. So you won't see any red listed material in a transparency label, because no one wants to advertise that they have a toxic or carcinogenic product, right? So by encouraging people to make choices that involve products that have transparency labels, it forces companies to be more transparent and provide labels so that customers can make an informed decision about what product they want to choose. If you don't provide a transparency label, you really can't make an intelligent, thoughtful decision about the environment. And so the more customers demand transparency labels, the more manufacturers are going to be forced to use healthy materials and get rid of red listed materials like formaldehyde, like Chrome 6, like vinyl, and so on. And there's of course hundreds of red listed chemicals.
Yeah, transparency can be such a fascinating motivator, right? I mean, you know, people in an industry might be doing something the same way for decades because, you know, everybody's sort of reached a consensus that it's the way that things should be done. But the moment you have to kind of declare that to somebody outside your industry, to your customers or their customers, you know, 2 or 3 steps down the value chain or up the value chain, all of a sudden, you know, the things that seem so logical maybe don't make that much sense anymore, right?
Right. And in fact, in our industry, the furniture industry, office furniture industry, we saw a lot of pushback to transparency. One large company was interviewed by Monday Morning Quarterback years ago, and I remember the response to transparency. They said, "Why do we need ingredients labels? We don't need furniture." Last time I checked. So there was this resistance, and there was always this thought that our suppliers won't give us the secret ingredients in their product, which of course is absolute nonsense. By using healthy materials, the problem with it is that it adds cost, and no one wants to add cost. But I think it's essential to add cost to protect people. And I think if people understand why something costs a little more than something else, they're more than happy to pay, you know, the additional whatever 5 or 6%.
I mean, in a way, if you think about it, the reason we've been having products be cheaper in certain cases is because the planet has been subsidizing them for us, right? Or people elsewhere have been subsidizing them for us by risking, their health and their lives. So, this idea of cost is just really interesting when it comes to sustainability, because once you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the costs start to make sense. So, Bob, I use this idea of interior designers or architects themselves, justifying things to their clients and so on. You work with interior designers, of course. They're among your customers. Certainly, you work with large corporations, big tech, so on. So Humanscale has many fans. What would you say to to people among your customers, or people like your customers, among interior designers, specifiers of some kind or the other, people who are involved in procurement, clients, facilities folks, at companies? How can they start to dig a little deeper into the impact of the spaces they're creating, whether it's for themselves or their workforce? What sort of questions should they be asking? And you mentioned the EPD and the declare label. What are some of the places they can look to for information on, companies like Humanscale?
Well, I think it all starts with the ingredients labels, because that's where transparency is. That's where transparency lives. Of course, you can go to various websites. You can go to Living Product Challenge website, and they'll actually list all the different ingredients labels by company. So you can go there. I don't have all the website addresses, but I'll get it to you, and you can send it out to the folks who are looking. But there's very, very easy ways to find out who has ingredients labels, what products have ingredients labels, and even how many ingredients labels each company has. So that's fairly easy to do. But the most important thing, I think, is to ask your supplier, do you have ingredients labels, declare HBD for these products you're putting forward? That's really the most important thing. We've been pushing it for many years now. When we started, we were like the only ones who had many labels. At the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, we had about 70% of all ingredients labels, HBD and declare, in the entire industry. We're a fairly small company by comparison to the larger companies in our industry, and to have 70% of them was ridiculous. But we talked to customers and we educated customers about the importance of transparency, and they began asking for labels. And now we have about 30, I think, I don't know right at this moment, but we're around 34, 35% of the ingredients labels for our industry. So it's really great. And by the way, we've been adding ingredients labels all along. So it's great that the rest of the industry has they haven't quite caught up. We have more ingredients labels than any other company, but they're pushing really hard to catch up, which is terrific. It's had a huge impact overall on the industry and on the planet. It's really been wonderful to see.
You mentioned you've been adding in, transparency labels all along. Humanscale also has a large number of products that are living product certified or in the process of certification. I mean, this has been an ongoing process over many years. If you had to look back at that process, for people who, are still on that journey, for designers who are learning about this and so on, what do you think has been something that has, kept you going, kept you driven around this? What, obviously, no one factor, makes a company like Humanscale achieve things at such a large, and wide scale. So, what are your motivations? What keeps you going on this quest?
Well, I mean, I've always been in love with nature. As a little boy, I used to spend my days and in the woods and in brooks and ponds. And now, when I take my family on vacation, we usually go to some place that's very wild, where we can experience nature. It's a wonderful thing to be in nature. So I've always been committed to protecting the planet and nature. I've had a long relationship with World Wildlife Fund, as you know. But what's interesting about it, there's a couple of things. One is that by being so committed to values, whether they're design values, our design values, or our sustainability values, it has a really positive impact on your customers, on your suppliers, and on the people at your company. People really feel connected with the company that's doing great things and that's trying to make the world a better place. It's had a really wonderful impact on our folks. They're part of it. And it's not just me, right? It's everyone at the company, and they take huge pride in protecting the planet and doing things that push other companies to try to catch up. So it's been a very positive experience for us as a company. It's helped us grow, and it's helped our brand. Those are the pragmatic reasons, aside from the emotional reasons of wanting to do the right thing. But it's very exciting that the world is now buying into the importance of protecting the planet. Customers really care about it. I think 20 years ago, people would ask, do you have recyclable content in your product? And okay, great. But no one really cared. Now they really care, and now it really makes a difference. So it's been very good. It's good for business as well.
I love that you added that last piece about how it has motivated and transformed people within the organization, and I'm sure it converted more than a few people to the cause. It's just incredible that by pushing for these small details on your products, by really working through your supply chain, you've been able to have internal change and external change. Just been such an agent for a positive impact throughout our industry, and through in the world. Bob, what are you looking forward to now? What do you have your eyes set on the horizon?
Well, we keep doing what we've always been doing. Everyone asks me what is the company going to look like going forward, and I tell them we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, trying to do the right thing, make amazing products that are incredibly simple, that people will cherish 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road, and not throw away. Having a larger footprint on the world, so the larger you get, the more impact you can have on customers, but also on the planet, right? You can do more good stuff. So we're going to keep doing what we've always been doing, and hopefully do it on a larger scale and have a bigger impact, and force other companies to do the same. And I'll tell you, it's a super joyful experience. I've had incredible joy out of doing it. I've been very fortunate. I've been doing it. I've had this job for 38 years, and it's been very, 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 very fun. And I hope to keep doing it as long as I can.
We hope you can keep doing it as long as you can too, because of the impact you've had, on the industry and on the sustainability movement as a whole. Thank you so much, Bob, for everything you do. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today about materials transparency at Humanscale. For anybody who wants to learn more, please head over to humanscale.com. And please take a dive into everything that this workplace solutions company has been achieving, in terms of furniture, technology, lighting, and really digging down deep into their supply chain, while, as you said, also keeping people comfortable and healthy through the design of your products. Thank you so much, Bob. Please do also, if you want to keep up with Metropolis on all our sustainability coverage, it's quite simple, metropolismac.com/sustainability. That's where all our content lives. And we look forward to seeing everything that Humanscale brings to the world in the future. And thank you again for everything you do, Bob. This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bobby, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.